Welcome to the Knowledge Seeker channel. The channel is dedicated to exploring critical issues in the world. As such, the channel is not afraid to challenge existing facts, theories, and beliefs in order to contribute to the advancement of knowledge. Today's presentation is titled Niger Delta, South-South. It is time to reclaim ownership of oil and gas because solid minerals are not nationalized. This is the Nigerian map. As you can see at the bottom of the map, where you have the green color, that region is the oil producing region of Nigeria, and it is known as the Niger Delta South-South. There are 9 states that make up the oil region. They include Abia, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Edo, Imo, Ondo, and Rivers states. These states have been responsible for generating the national wealth for the entire country in the last 50 to 60 years. The purpose of this presentation is to achieve 3 goals. 1. Suggest to the people of the Niger Delta South-South that it is time for them to gain back ownership of oil and gas in Nigeria, since solid minerals are not nationalized. 2. Suggest ways to gain back the ownership of the liquid minerals by compelling Nigeria to go back to the principle of derivation, since solid minerals operate under the principle of derivation and not nationalization. And 3. Encourage the indigenes of the Niger Delta South-South to stop behaving like colonial subjects of Nigeria and demand their natural rights over their resources. To accomplish the goals of the presentation, the following arguments and observations are made. 1. It is time for the Niger Delta South-South to reclaim the rightful ownership of oil and gas resources in Nigeria. This is necessary after the oil region allowed Nigeria to nationalize the ownership and management of oil exploration starting in 1969 during the early part of the Nigerian Civil War. 2. The Niger Delta South-South should reclaim ownership of the resources because Nigeria does not nationalize solid minerals, even though it claims to do so. And 3. The Niger Delta South-South allowed Nigeria to share the oil wealth among 1. The national government, 2. The 36 states of the Federation, 3. The 774 local governments, and the Federal Capital Territory. So all the different governments in Nigeria share from the oil wealth that comes from the Niger Delta South-South. Four, Nigeria claims that oil and gas are national resources, but individuals are given oil blocks. Why? 5, most of the oil blocks are owned by individuals from the non-oil producing regions of Nigeria, while the inhabitants of the oil region have little. 6, the Niger Delta South-South does not gain anything from the proceeds of solid minerals because individuals are allowed to mine them. 7. The Niger Delta South-South is treated like a colony of Nigeria and not as part of Nigeria. 8. To ensure total nationalization of oil and gas, the president is always the Minister of Petroleum, while the president does not serve as the Minister of Solid Minerals. Why? Why is the president always wanting to be the Minister of Petroleum Resources and does not do so to the solid minerals? 9. Nigeria has several solid minerals but does not want to nationalize them so that individuals from the power welding groups can generate private wealth through mining of these minerals. 10th, the Joint Task Force, which is a military division, is deployed in the Niger Delta South-South. Hence, individuals cannot engage in petroleum refining, while individuals can mine gold and other solid minerals. 11th, the Niger Delta South-South is devastated through oil pollution and gas flaring after more than 50 years of oil exploration. 12. Nigeria is not interested in cleaning the massive pollution that has devastated the oil region but wants to drill more oil. 13. Nigeria uses crude oil as a collateral to borrow foreign loans but does not use solid minerals to do so, thereby exposing the oil region to a possible foreign occupation and exploitation if Nigeria fails to pay the loans. And 14. Since the oil region is viewed as a colony, the oil wealth is massively embezzled without any consequence. In fact, most of Nigeria's millionaires and billionaires acquire their wealth through the massive embezzlement of the oil wealth. Now, let's look at the decrees, acts, and laws passed by the Nigerian government to nationalize oil and gas in Nigeria. 1. The Oil in Navigable Waters Act of 1968, the Petroleum Act of 1969, the Oil Pipelines Act of 1969, the Associated Gas Reinjection Act of 1969. This was followed by the Offshore Oil Revenue Decree of 1971. These decrees were enacted during the military regime of General Yakubu Gowon during the Civil War and after the Civil War. So General Gowon is responsible for the maximum nationalization of oil and gas in Nigeria. The Petroleum Production and Distribution Act of 1975, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation was established on April 1, 1977 through the merging of the National Oil Corporation and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum and Energy Resources. The Exclusive Economic Zone Act of 1978, the Land Use Act of 1978. These acts and decrees were passed by the military regime of General Olusegun Obasanjo. Here you have one of the 4 government-owned refineries in Nigeria. You have one in Kaduna, one in Warri, and two in Port Harcourt, with a section in Eleme. But in the last few years, the refineries have not worked. Yet, the government has been spending billions to rehabilitate them for some time. Here you have series of pipelines near a neighborhood. You see the little girl crossing over by walking on top of the pipeline. So every day, people take the risk of going through these pipelines. And if any of these pipelines explode, you can see that the community will be severely affected. Here you have the Nigerian map. As you can see, the thick dark line is the major oil pipeline that takes oil from the oil region to Kaduna in northern Nigeria. And then you have the subsidiary pipelines that helps to distribute oil across Nigeria. Gas flaring in the Niger Delta South. Yeah, one of the biggest problems in oil exploration in Nigeria is that for the past 50 years, gas has been allowed to be flared. And because of this, the Niger Delta environment is highly polluted. And this creates a lot of medical problems for the inhabitants of the region. Here again, you have gas flaring, and this goes on 24 hours. So any community that lives close to the gas flaring center will have its environment totally polluted. And the federal government have passed laws trying to stop gas flaring, but each time it will postpone the date for enforcing the deadline for stopping gas flaring. So even at this moment, gases are still being flared in the Niger Delta, and it goes on 24 hours. Here you have oil pipeline explosion, and anytime an oil pipeline explodes, the entire environment, the forest, the water, ways are all polluted. And sometimes it takes a while for the federal government and for the oil company to react to fix the problem. And the people in the region have been complaining about this problem to no avail. Here again, you have an oil pipeline explosion. So you can see why the Niger Delta environment, the South environment is highly polluted due to oil exploration. It creates anger in the region. Again, you see oil spill. So in many parts of the South, the land is so polluted that sometimes even farming doesn't do well. People go to fish, they don't catch much fish unless they go out into the open ocean. I think the Niger Delta is probably the most polluted oil region in the world, and the federal government has not done anything to clean the mess. Again, you can see it again, oil spill in the Niger Delta South. And this has been on like this for 50 years or more. Now, let's see why the federal government claimed that all minerals are nationalized, yet the solid minerals are not. That is why the title here is Privatization of Solid Minerals. Although Nigeria claims that all minerals are in the exclusive list, meaning that they are owned, controlled, regulated, and managed by the national government, following the Act of 2007, which stipulates that, and I quote, no person shall search for or exploit mineral resources in Nigeria or divert or exploit or impound water for the purpose of mining except as provided in this act, and unquote. Yet, there is no physical federal government control, regulation, and management of solid minerals. None. There is no joint task force, that is a military division deployed in the solid minerals region to stop private mining of barite, bentonite, bitumen, coal, columbite, feldspar, gold, gemstones, gypsum, iron ore, kaolin, lead, limestone, lithium, manganese, phosphates, rock salt, talc, tantalite, tin, and so forth. In fact, Nigeria has about 50 different kinds of solid minerals. Nigeria allows both Nigerians and foreigners to explore these minerals without insisting that they are national minerals. Famous Nigerian lawyer Femi Falana San stated that billions of dollars worth of gold are being smuggled out of the country annually. A reporter, David Ijashon, reported, and I quote, he said that 9 billion worth of gold is being smuggled out of the country every year, aided by the use of 2 private jets. Falana voiced his concerns during an interview with Channels TV News, highlighting the exploitation of Nigeria's valuable mineral resources by foreign entities, and I unquote. The president and the federal government do not seem to care about the enormous wealth generated from solid minerals that is being smuggled out of the country. The question is, why does Nigeria not care about generating national wealth from solid minerals to boost the economic well-being of the country? Why does the federal government allow private individuals, including foreigners, to mine solid minerals? Again, why? This is surprising since many countries in the world, including South Africa, rely extensively on wealth generated from gold to create national wealth. Yet, Nigeria does not bother about enhancing the economy through mining of solid minerals, while putting undue burden on the Niger Delta South to generate national wealth. Indeed, the oil region has been exploited for 6 decades. In fact, the federal government is currently putting pressure on the Ogoni people to allow oil exploration to commence in their territory without even cleaning the oil pollution that it promised to do so through an arrangement with the United Nations Environmental Program. It is as if the people in the oil region doesn't matter. that the federal government will want the Ogoni people to allow oil exploration to continue without first cleaning the pollution that it created through oil exploration. Already, the Nigerian government has used the crude oil from the Niger Delta South-South zone as a collateral to borrow a sizable sum of money from foreign sources, thereby exposing the oil region to a possible foreign occupation. Thus, anytime there is a budgetary shortfall, the federal government always puts pressure to produce more barrels of oil from the oil region without putting any pressure on the solid minerals regions to generate more national income. Since everything must come to an end, the nationalization of oil and gas must come to an end now to allow the oil region to breathe fresh air. Here you have private individuals and probably mining cooperatives working together to mine solid minerals in Nigeria. And the federal government claim that solid minerals are national minerals, yet the federal government allows individuals to explore or mine these minerals, earn income, and take care of their families. But in the oil region, Nigeria does not allow the citizens to refine petroleum. Here again, the same thing. You have individuals, probably here they are mining for gold, and it is all over the place in the solid minerals regions of Nigeria. And the federal government looks the other way. But when it comes to the oil region, the military, the police are always there. You see, here again, private mining of solid minerals in Nigeria. You see how individuals are busy making a living out of mining these solid minerals. And these minerals are supposed to be national minerals. The federal government doesn't do anything about it. Now, in conclusion, let's look at the actions that should be taken to ameliorate the situation. These suggestions are for the inhabitants of the Niger Delta South-South. 1. The inhabitants of the Niger Delta South-South, please wake up from your deep sleep. 2. Stop acting like colonial subjects of Nigeria and demand your constitutional rights as full citizens of the country. 3. Form a united political front and demand resource control of your resources, just as inhabitants of the solid minerals regions do. 4. Tell Nigeria that 6 decades of the exploitative relationship must come to an end forthwith. 5. The senators and representatives from the oil region should immediately submit a bill for resource control to the National Assembly to pass a law to amend the nationalization decrees and laws. 6. The youth organizations in the Niger Delta South-South should hold demonstrations to demand resource control and inform the world about the double standard in the management of mineral resources in the country. 7. The Pan-Niger Delta Elders Forum, that is PANDEF, should petition the President and the National Assembly demanding the stoppage of nationalization of oil and gas. The petition should be forwarded to the other regional socio-political organizations. 8. The organizations that represent the ethnic nationalities should also petition the President and the National Assembly and forward the petition, if necessary, to Britain, the United States, France, the ECOWAS, African Union, European Union, and the United Nations. 9. Any individual in the oil region that tries to betray the demand for resource control through financial rewards or political appointments must be castigated. 10. The civil society organizations in the oil region should work with the state governments to take legal action if the National Assembly fails to nationalize oil and gas. 11. The oil region must stand firm and be resolute in the demand for resource control. And 12. Enough is enough. It is time to stop the exploitation of the Niger Delta South by the Nigerian government. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. The issue of resource control is very, very important at this critical moment in the history of Nigeria. Please subscribe to the channel and listen to other interesting video presentations. Again, thank you so much.